Hi everyone, welcome to Healing Dogs and Cats Daily Chat, episode number 2. Uh, Today I had a request from our support group to talk about itchy skin in dogs, so that'll be today's topic. So let's just jump right in. So itchy skin is a result of a backlog of waste in the body. So our bodies are self-cleaning, self-healing, and they have primary elimination channels and secondary elimination channels. So in dogs, their primary elimination channels are the same as in humans, which is going to be your bowels, your kidneys, and your lungs. So in a totally normal, healthy dog, living in a healthy environment, eating a healthy diet, their normal daily processes are going to create some cellular waste, debris. There's going to be elimination of toxins, and so the body has a sewer system to eliminate all of this waste. And that waste typically goes to the primary elimination channels for elimination. So it goes to the bowels, it's eliminated in stool, it goes to the kidneys, it's eliminated in the urine. And when we breathe in and out, that is an elimination source as well. So in a healthy body, those three avenues are able to handle the waste load, and so there's no symptoms, no external symptoms elsewhere. However, when we stray from the natural diet, or when we are exposed to chemicals to a degree that the body can't just handle it through the normal elimination channels, or any other reason where the normal elimination channels just cannot keep up, then the body will move to open up secondary elimination channels. So secondary elimination channels are going to be things like the skin, the paw pads for pups, the ears, the eyes, the nose, like releasing mucus through the eyes and ears. And in some dogs, they may also release through the mucous membranes of the gums. So their gums will become red and irritated, and some of the waste will come out that way. Um, the So the skin, though, is the largest of those secondary elimination channels, and so that's the one that's utilized the most frequently. So we see that a lot in dogs. So there's a couple reasons why your dog might have itchy skin. One is going to be that you've just transitioned them from a higher burden diet to a lower burden diet, and so the body has more energy, and that excess energy is available now to clean out the backlogs, the years worth of waste that had built up on the prior diet. And the second is that we're still feeding something that is creating some level of burden that is causing the skin to have to be opened because the backlog of waste is just too much for the standard elimination channels. So if your dog has recently transitioned to the natural diet and you're seeing itchy skin, then most likely it is because they're just cleaning out that backlog of waste. So typically in the first year to 18 months, we will see itchy skin as a detox symptom on the natural diet. And usually that is something that you don't really need to do anything about. There's no correction that needs to be made. Now, if you're feeding kibble or you're feeding commercial raw foods, canned foods, any sort of processed food, then you're still putting in the source, and so that needs to be corrected. Now, there are some times when they are on their natural diet where they could still potentially be creating a little bit of excess burden, and that's typically a result of fermentation or putrefaction of their foods. So plant-based foods, so your fruits and vegetables, are gonna create fermentation if they're not digested properly, if they're rotting in the digestive tract, just like grapes can turn into wine if we ferment them. So just like those grapes turn into wine and that wine contains alcohol, and alcohol is a cellular poison, the food or fruit fermenting in the digestive tract can also create that alcohol if it's fermenting. So one of the things that we want to look at with our dogs, if they're continuing to itch and the itching is increasing and it doesn't seem to be getting any relief, then we want to check to make sure that the food that we're feeding is actually getting properly digested. So in a kibble fed dog, there a lot of times the reason that they're having these skin issues is because the food is combining proteins with carbohydrates. And so when proteins and carbohydrates are mixed, neither one digests properly. There's a lot of undigested material, and that undigested material is moving very slowly through the digestive tract, and it's creating chronic fermentation. And so that's what that's what leads to dogs having this buildup of waste in the first place, is just that chronic fermentation in the digestive tract. So when we transition, maybe we transition to like a home cooked, and we're cooking up like things like sweet potatoes, peas, green beans, starches. We're maybe making them rice. So these are all kind of common ingredients that are included in these home cooked recipes, and all of them are starches. And dogs do not have any ability to digest starches. So if you're feeding something like sweet potatoes or quinoa or any kind of like steamed vegetables like broccoli, peas that are high starch vegetables, you want to stop that, because those are not digestible, and they're just going to ferment in the system and create all sorts of digestive distress, and that's going to lead to that excess burden and creating the fermentation in the system. And then moving closer to ideal foods, if we're feeding fruits, if we overfeed, if we give our dogs too large of a meal for what their stomach can currently digest, that can also lead to fermentation. So sometimes we see that when dogs are newly transitioning over, we're feeding the amount that we think they should require in terms of calories, in terms of making sure that they can maintain their weight. But most of that fruit that they're eating, it's just too large of a meal all at once for them. And so their stomach just isn't able to process it all right away. So sometimes what we have to do is we have to bring their portion size down a little bit, let the stomach work up to the larger meals over a few months. So sometimes we have to start them down, maybe like we'll cut it down by like 25% and see if that is well digested and not creating any itching or any gas, bloating, lip licking. Those are all other signs of fermentation. So we always want to just check for that. If we're seeing itching, just checking to make sure that they're digesting everything well. And you can look at their stool also. So if they're digesting well, their stool should be normal stool shape, so like a nice long sausage. It should be moist but firm on a fruit day. And you shouldn't see any chunks of undigested fruit. You shouldn't see any like bits of apple or anything like that in there. It should be fairly uniform in texture, and it should be either the color of whatever fruit that you fed them or something close to that color but with a tinge of yellow or brown to it. The yellow or brown is just the bile from the digestion processes. So if you're seeing anything like gas, bloating, lip licking, that's a pretty good indicator that your meals are too large, and that could be contributing to the fermentation, which could then be contributing to the itching. So that would be the first thing we want to look at on the natural diet is what's our portion size. Let's drop the portion size down. Usually 25% is good, but you can always go down to 50% and then work your way up. And then what we'll do is we will work our way back up slowly, so 1 to 2 ounces at a time, and test the upper limit. So if you drop it down, say you cut it to 50% and there's no itching, the itching backs down after a couple days, and then you'll keep it at that for like a week or two, and then you'll go up and 1 or 2 ounces, and you'll work your way up over the course of a month or two. And if you get to the point where you see the itching return, then you know that that's their upper limit, and so you'll drop it down 1 to 2 ounces below whatever that rate is. So if you're finding that, say at 10 ounces they're itching, drop it down to 8 ounces and keep them at that for as long as is needed. If you find that you cut the portion size down to 50%, and they're still itching, there's two things that could be going on. One, just their digestion is very weak and they are still fermenting the food. Or two, it's just the old waste that is coming out. So for number one, if their digestion is very, very weak, then we can add digestive enzymes and that can help them to digest the fruit. And so you would add the digestive enzymes right onto the food about 5 minutes before you feed. Let that work on the food a little bit before you feed, and then that should help to improve their digestion. And usually what we want to do with the digestive enzymes is feed those for maybe 2 or 3 weeks and then take a break from them and see if digestion has improved. And if digestion is perfect without them, then you can just stay off of them. But if you need to, like, add them back, but keep testing every couple of weeks. So do 2 weeks on, 1 week off, and just see how digestion is improving, because we don't want to stay on them long term. So the other reason would be it's just a backlog of waste, and the body's just using that skin as that elimination channel. So if we suspect that it's just a backlog of waste, especially if they're like within that first year, and particularly within like 6 months to 18 months, most dogs will have a healing event. And those healing events can last anywhere from a few days to a few weeks to sometimes a few months. So if you suspect that it could be they're falling within that parameter of that 6 months to 18 months, and they're having all this itchy skin, then one of the things we can do is we can fast. And fasting just allows the body to clean that much faster. So if the body doesn't have to divide its energy between digestion and cleaning, the body can focus all of its energy onto cleaning. So we can do a fast of anywhere from 4 days to 10 or 20 days as needed. Dogs can fast up to 40 days, cats can fast up to 20 days. But we generally fast between 5 days and 10 days is on average to clear symptoms. So you would go into a fast and fast until the symptoms clear up. So if you're trying to clear a hot spot, you might fast 5 days, the hot spot clears up, give it one more day, and then start back on fruit. And then you always want to break a fast with a smaller meal. So I usually break with half their normal portion size the first day, then 3/4 the second day, and then a full meal on the third day, as long as the first 2 days everything goes well, they're not having diarrhea, vomiting, or anything like that. So if you see breaking the fast that they're not digesting the food well that first day, then stay at the lower amount until they're digesting it well. Or if they just throw it right back up again, then that's the body telling you that it's not ready for food yet, it's not done cleaning, and so you can just hold off another day or two and then try another small meal. So that's most of it. Basically, just a lot of times the itching is just going to be from the body expelling that waste. So as long as you've put the corrections in place to their diet, as long as you're not feeding cooked foods, you're not feeding any like sweet potatoes or quinoa or any starchy vegetables, you're not feeding any cooked meats, you're not feeding any processed foods, then all you need to do is just be patient and wait. But if you are feeding kibble, commercial foods, anything cooked, anything that's not a whole natural food in its whole form, then that's where you need to make the correction. You need to correct the input that's going in, because that's going to be creating that chronic condition. So hopefully that was helpful for you guys today, and I'll see you tomorrow.